Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed girl summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed girl summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed girl summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blessed Girl Summer Podcast. It's your host Tisha here. And we are still in season 3 and we are continuing this personal, journey, voyage, chronicles that I'm doing in an effort to allow you guys to know me a little bit more. I wanted to keep this personal this season. I wanted to be a little bit more vulnerable this season. Previous seasons, I definitely want you to go check out. Season 1 was really great. Season 2, I did a lot. The focus was on advocacy. Well, let me go back. Season 1, the focus was on self-care. And so I did a lot of conversations with just me and then conversations with others about their self-care journey and the things in which they do to cultivate peace and joy in their lives. And so the whole podcast is really about creating those spaces for ourselves and how do we cultivate this life as we're navigating the ups and downs, right? And so, so season 2, we did advocacy, and we have just been personally talking about like growth, reflecting back on 2024, aspirations for 2025, and just things that I've learned in my 48 years of life, right? So also, if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. You are now a BGSS, Blessed Girl Summer Sister. We're super excited to have you here. A little bit about me. I am going for my second master's. I'm in graduate school to become a marriage and family therapist. So I have been going on my educational journey as well as my healing journey, as well as internal stuff. And it has produced all of these things, right? And so I've been sharing some of that journey with you all here in season 3. But the thing that I wanted to talk about today is culture and Christianity. And so if you did not know, I am a Christian. And one of the assignments that I had to do in school was a cultural biography. And so let me give you a little backdrop about that. So when we talk about culture, right, we're talking about like we could be talking about socioeconomics, right? Like how we grew up economically. We could be talking about the community in which we grew up in, and we could be talking about that from a perspective of like race, like the African American community, the Latino community, whether you grew up in a whole other country, right? Like those cultural differences. We can be talking about that. But we could also be talking about religion, right? Your faith, that's a part of your culture. We could be talking about your age. Now I shared a couple of episodes ago about how I'm going through perimenopause. So I'm in a different age, right? I'm a grandma. I don't even know if I told y'all that. I'm a girl. I got 2 grandbabies. So like that's a different space than, maybe adolescence or younger adulthood, or I've been married for 17 years. Just it'll be 17 years in a couple of months. So that's why I was like, the wheels were turning. But so then that's different than, being a newlywed. So just so many different things can encompass who we are and how we're influenced. And so I'm an only child, right? Like all those things play a part. And so a part of the assignment was creating a cultural biography and then really like analyzing and reflecting on how all these things have shaped who you are. And when I got the assignment, I know I'm like, I was nervous. Because one of the things that, you often hear about therapy is like all of the things that you're dealing with now in the present, stem from your childhood, stem from the past, stem from experiences, stem from what you've learned, stem from how you think and how you got that perspective. And so as you begin to unravel some of those things, you kind of begin to realize like, I'm not as much my own as I might have thought that I was. Like I was very influenced by all of these things, right? By my family, how my family operates, and like all those different things. And so the more that you discover about that, the more that you really know, you might not really know yourself that well, right? And so but well, you can have that impression. I don't really know myself that well. Or you can also look at it as like, oh, I need to explore more. There's more for me to learn about me, right? And not that you don't know things about yourself, but that you're still uncovering things, right? And so definitely having been on that journey, I was a little bit nervous about what I was going to uncover, specifically about my faith. And so we, there was many assignments involved in this before we actually did our own cultural biography, but it required like research. So I had to like interview family members or people or friends that were similar, that grew up similar to me, right, culturally. And then I had to ask specific types of questions that would help me begin to understand their thought process around things, right? And then I analyzed like based upon their answers and that conversation that really sparked me to begin thinking about myself and like how much of a role, how influenced I have been by other people, by things, by the community, by the culture. And so for me, I was like a little bit like, oh Lord, I do not want to take this thing and then like come to this conclusion that like my faith is not my own, right? Like that it is just I've inherited it because as I did my genealogram, one pattern, and if you don't know what a genealogram is, it's like a family tree, but it's a um, it's a tool that therapists can use to identify family patterns. And so patterns could be anything. So since we're talking about religion, one of the things that I definitely saw was like my whole mother's side of the family, everybody is pretty much Christian. There are maybe a couple of people um, who are, who may have been, I'm trying to think if this is accurate statement, but that I know of that maybe are just like not practicing anything or maybe went kind of extreme in terms of Christianity into like being like an Israelite or something like that. But it's this still had like a Christian basis, right? But anyway, and then there's like deacon pastors, like all of that is like in ministers, like all of like in my family, like that's what the roles that people have played within the church. And so then I just began to see that pattern. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. Right. Um so as I was exploring, I was a little bit, and then one of the questions was, what is one of your concerns about doing this? Like, what is one of the fears? Here go the dog barking again. Y'all, please forgive me. Every time I try to record, somebody comes to the door. Um, so one of the things, that was one of the questions. What might you be nervous about or concerned about discovering, right? And so, but I dived in because I was like, you know what, I want to know. I want to be clear. And so as I began to explore, like I did see those patterns and things like that, and I began to have conversations with other people about their faith and us having the same faith, but how they came to that and how they were raised and like all of those different things. And we just began to really have really great conversations. And what I gained from that um, for myself is that my relationship with the Lord, like although yes I definitely was raised in a Christian household. I definitely was in church more than I was not. And that was definitely a very big part of my upbringing and who I am. Um, it my relationship with God did not become my relationship until I had my own experiences. So what I mean by that, and that was also a pattern that I saw for the people that I chose to interview, that they had heard, right? Before it was just a religious practice. It was just what you did. You went to church on Sunday, you went to Bible study on Wednesday, you went to choir practice or whatever on Thursday or youth ministry on Friday. Like those are things that you just did, just like you went to school every day, right? But everybody had a moment where it became real for them. And so it opened up the space also for me to explore my moments when it became real for me, when my faith became real for me. And so for me, um, um, when that experience happened for me is when I was going through. Well, I feel like I've had a couple of experiences, but when I say that there was just like a this is who I'm serving, this is how I'm living, this is what I believe, there's no turning back space for me, was definitely when I was going through my divorce. And at that stage of the game, at that point, I was unemployed. Um, Him and I were not seeing eye to eye. He was not faithful. My house was going to go into foreclosure. It was just a really, I was trying to find employment, couldn't find employment, or the things that I was getting, they were just like real minimal jobs. And, I was on public assistance, like all of those things. And having gone from owning a home and living pretty, well to not, um, it was a real wake up call for me. And I found myself in a place of being just dependent on God, like turning to Him, like surrendering, I should say. I found myself coming to the place where I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing this well. I've spent the past 29 years doing things the way that I think that I should be doing them and trying to make things happen, trying to control narratives, trying to be in charge. And clearly, I am not. I am not in charge. I keep making bad choices that become worse choices that all have consequences. I don't have any peace. Things are just not getting better. And so, how about I really try you for real? Like, how about I just trust you? Because where I recognized that there was peace for me was during my times at church and worship, during where I felt that I could be the most vulnerable. Like, I'm not a crier, but you get me in somebody's worship service and Holy Spirit is moving, psh, I'm crying, I'm worshiping. I'm like all in. And so those were spaces where I was able to find peace, where I was able to find where I felt loved. And let me be clear, there were supportive people in that space, but the the peace and the love that I'm talking about is from the Lord, because it wasn't. I'm not talking about from people. I'm talking about where I was able to feel comforted in my heart, in moments when I was by myself, in moments when no one else understood, in moments when this thing was just looking hopeless. Like when I was able to get on my knees and cry out to the Lord and feel comforted in my soul and in my spirit, and feel reassured, and listen to a worship song that would um, encourage me, and motivate me and remind me that I could call on him, remind me that I wasn't alone despite what the circumstance and the situation looked like, despite what the bank account Jesus was saying. And when I look back on that time, I can't even tell you how we were able to eat. I can't even tell you how I was able to have these kids um, in daycare and summer camp and all those things. I can't even tell you how we made it through, because I know that God literally carried me through. And so for me, when I was able to identify, like, there just being a knowing because of my personal experiences that didn't have to do with anyone else, didn't have to do with my mother, it didn't have to do with my family members, it didn't have to do with any of them. It had to do with me. And then from that point, I began to want to know more. And so then it was like, okay, well, let me start reading my word, and let me start reading. Really, so let me be honest, because I was not always a fan of reading the Bible, because it felt very foreign to me, and confusing. And I also felt like when I read it, I would interpret it one way, but when the pastor would give it his interpretation, it would be different than mine. So I concluded in my mind that that was not my gifting, and that I should just sit back, take notes, and learn. But what I did do a lot of reading. One of the books. Let me go back. I'm just remembering. I'm remembering another experience. So before I actually got to the point of like I surrender, there was so many things going on. So I already told you I was unemployed, in an unfaithful situation. Um, oh, let me rewind. Okay, so that was one instance. But prior to that, in this same marriage, we had gone through a drastic separation. And I think at that point I had two children. I had two children. Um, we were separating because he was unfaithful. He was living in another space. I was living in my own space. And I didn't even know it at the time, but I was depressed. And I say that because I wasn't eating. Every time I tried to eat something, my stomach would hurt. So I was not eating. I lost so much weight. I was cute, so but I was really skinny. I think I was almost the same weight that I was when I was in high school. And now by this time I had already had two children. And I didn't know, like I didn't associate my stomach hurting with me being stressed, or me, like I didn't associate that. I just knew that I just really couldn't eat anything. So I didn't have an appetite. I wasn't really eating. Um and I was a busy mom. My kids were, I think both of them were probably like under 4 at the time. So I was busy and I was trying to figure it out. Now it's just my income, and I'm, renting, and I'm just going to work, and I'm just trying to do all the things. And we went to my church at the time, was going to a Joyce Myers conference. And I had heard of Joyce Myers. I had not read any of her books. I didn't really know much about her. But they were going, and I didn't have the kids that weekend. And I think that somebody, because I don't see myself paying for this ticket, but somebody must have blessed me with the ticket. And one of my friends, my girlfriends, wanted to go too. So it was kind of like, oh, I could do like a little weekend thing and get away. Because it was in another state. So we did like an overnight thing. So, and she was going through some stuff. So we went to this Joyce Myers conference, and it was so good. I don't know if you guys know who Joyce Myers is, but she is known for just being so direct, being so real. sharing her story. She was molested by her father for years and years and years. She was angry. She was angry, like rude. She was just like very a reflection of the things that she had been through. Her mom knew about the abuse, but never did anything to protect her. And then I think she had gotten married. I don't remember her whole story, but she had a lot going on. And she was very transparent about it, very real about it, very direct. And she got saved and she shared her story. And but also through her salvation, there was a lot of healing that had to happen. And it wasn't that God wanted her not to be her. He just wanted her to be a better her, a healed her, a happier her, right? Um, and what I liked about it is because people used to always say, about me like, oh, she's so direct, you're so direct, sometimes you can be so harsh and all this other stuff. But a lot of times when we see people like that, there is a reason, there is something that has things that have happened to them that have hardened them, that have made them into that way, and no one was really trying to figure that out. People were just always talking about like um like the delivery part. And so this was the first time that I was listening to someone work backwards. I was listening to a podcast she was on the other day, and she was saying a lot of times we can't see the future, but we don't understand the things that are happening. Like we live life forward, but we understand it backwards. That's what she said. We live life forward, but we understand it backwards. So as we get to the destinations we've been called to, we can then look back and understand why we went through the things that we went through and why we had to go through the processes that we had to go through. And so she was on this stage basically at that point living life backwards. And it was really great to hear all of the things that she had been through and where she was now and why she had to go through those things. And so it was just so healing. But she also shared how God had carried her through, like how he loved her in those things. And man, I was like, and then she talked about, I think around this time, like her biggest books were, and they are still top sellers. Like if you are looking for a book and you have not read these books, you need to have these things on your bookshelf after you've read them. The first one was Battlefield of the Mind. The second one was Be Anxious for Nothing. Oh, what was the third one? There is a third one that I can't remember. But if you do those two, I feel like y'all, I read Battlefield of the Mind before the conference was over. I bought the book at the conference. We must have been there for like 2 days or something because that book was halfway done. I was reading that thing on a ride back. Um, and then Be Anxious for Nothing, I read when I came home. But I went through those two books in a matter of 2 weeks. And I wasn't even a reader like that at the time, but they were feeding me. And one of the things that she helped me to understand was that I had control of my mind, and that every thought that came into my mind I didn't have to own, that they weren't all mine, and how to subject thoughts that didn't serve me, thoughts that were leading me down destructive paths, how to subject them to the word of God. And understanding that there is definitely a battle going on, like the enemy wants our mind. Like even when we think about like therapy, we're talking like cognitive behavioral therapy is about your thinking and us reframing maybe some of those thoughts, right? Shifting perspectives, right? Because our minds like dictate what we do, and so what we're ruminating on, what we're thinking on is so important. And so that was the first time like that concept had come to me. Um, and then she was able, and then also showing me in the Bible how God was talking about how that's talked about. And so she also was one of the first people that helped me make the Bible real, make it real and make it relatable and have me understand it in a simplistic way. And y'all, even now I'm like smiling if you're looking at this video because it was so transformational for me, so helpful for me because so many things were going on, especially being in a relationship where you're gaslighted all the time and lied to, and you out here thinking that you don't know what you're thinking, right? I say all the time, you could be looking at the sky and you see it's blue, but if someone's constantly telling you it's green, it's green, it's green, and next thing you know, you've been believing the thing is green, and you're looking right at it in some kind of way. You see the blue, but you're thinking green, right? And so, anyway, back to the story. So that was that was when I first was like, wow, this is real, and this can be applicable to my life. This can be a resource. This I don't have to do this alone. And so then began that journey of like, I am holding on to this because this is saving me. This is saving me. Because I wasn't eating, I was stressed out. I was too busy to really sit in things. But had I not been so busy, I definitely would have been very depressed. Um, but because I had to function, because I had these kids and I had to do stuff, like I was just moving through it. I was functioning and depressed, right? So then the second time, obviously, we got back together and had another child, and then still ended in a place where the relationship was toxic. And but I knew that it was a toxic relationship, but I wanted to honor God in the marriage, and so I really began to dive in to what his word says, what he had called me to do in that season, because that was my sanity. That was how I was able to keep my peace in a chaotic situation. That's another story for another time. I do plan on probably next season. I feel like season 4, and I know I'm pivoting here, but I feel like season 4 is going to be more about navigating life situations. And I think I'm going to like talk about certain life situations that were hard for me to navigate and bring on different guests and kind of talk through with them situations in life that they had to navigate, like divorce, um, heartbreak, like all those different things. And so I think that's what we'll be diving into as we go into season 4. But back to my story. So for me, um, it was a good exercise. It was a good exercise to see how, yes, culture has influenced me. I have been influenced by culture. We all have. None of us are we are not completely objective people. We have our own biases, we have our own beliefs, we have all of those things. And those things make up who we are, right? And I think there are some things that have been embedded in us that we are not aware are embedded in us and are doing us harm. But then there are some things that are embedded in us that are helping us thrive, that are tools and resources that have helped us navigate well, right? And so, as you explore those things, exploring them with the understanding that I'm trying to seek out what has been helpful and what hasn't. What do I need to adjust and what don't I need to adjust? What has been helpful, and because it's been helpful, maybe now I can share, right? And so it was very just good. I don't want to say therapeutic, but it was just very healing. Healing. I don't think I want to use that word. What is the word I want to use? It was very comforting. I feel like I'm getting closer, but very comforting to know that my faith is my faith, right? That it's not something that I've just inherited or taken on because other people have told me it's the way to go. It's the thing to do. It is something that I have experienced myself. And this is just one of the experiences, two of the experiences that I'm sharing, but there have been far more intimate experiences with God that have made him the ruler of my heart, right? That have made me accept Christ as my savior and want to live a life that is pleasing unto him. And so it's a good feeling, I think, to know, because I think when you're even like just in general, like if it's not therapy but you're doing like a lot of research, there is a lot of knowledge that you can gather, a lot of information that you can gather, things we don't know. We are all still learning and growing, and sometimes I feel like people can be afraid of learning and knowing because you don't want to change, or you don't want something that you thought was true to no longer be true for you. And how do I marry that, especially if my entire family, you know what I'm saying, believes this thing or thinks this thing? And so how so now if I put myself in a position of knowing something different, then now what do I do with that, and how does that impact my life? And so that was a real fear for me. Like that was a concern, because this is what I've known. This is what has been for me. So to really be able to dive into that and to explore that and to know that it's mine, and it's not my family. It is my family's, but it's not mine because someone told me it's mine. I went out and did my thing, and was trying it on my own. Um, and so it was my choice, I guess is my point. So I just wanted to share that, like, as we talk about culture, because a lot of people, we talk about culture, and well, I'm talking about culture in this particular perspective, as we are looking to see how culture has influenced us. I think it's always great to explore that conversation, because so many things, we are bombarded with so much stuff all of the time, and then so many subliminal messages. So like even when we talk about like gender and gender roles and like all those different things, we are bombarded with things. Even those were part of the questions, like, what do you feel the role of the man is in the house, the role of the woman is in the house, where did that come from, and like all those different things. And it can have you questioning everything, okay? But I think it's great to explore it, not in a way that you're looking to attack, but in a way that you're looking to understand. Um, and and yeah, so I hope this episode has been helpful. If there is something, especially as it comes, so let me stick to the topic of Christianity, especially um, as it concerns Christianity, because I think so often people were like, they want to reject something sometimes just because their family, everybody's doing this. Or they want to reject something because they had a bad experience with someone who says that they're Christian and then shows up differently. My encouragement is that you test it out and explore it for yourself, and you look for your own experiences, and you ask God to show you who he is. Show me you, right? I don't want my faith or my belief to be based on my mama, my father, my cousin, my uncle, Pastor Greg, or whoever. I'm just making up names at this point. But I don't want my faith to be based on somebody else's faith. That is not going to bring me through. At the end of the day, when I'm by myself, when things seem hopeless, when no one can tell me what to do, no one can help me, when it's just me having to walk through this thing by myself, I'm going to need to know what I believe. And so, and why, and why I believe it. And so I just encourage you, if you're questioning like that, especially in this day and age when there's so many things, right? Um, you want to explore that space for yourself. And, I'm confident that if you ask of the Lord, if you ask God to show you who he's going to show you, he's going to show you. And so, um, because he loves you, right? Because he loves you. So I just wanted to share that for anyone who may be questioning that, and maybe even questioning that in terms of like, well, I don't want to try new things. I don't want to step out in new spaces because I don't want to be confused. I don't want to know anything different. I don't want to think anything different. Last thing I'll share about that. So the other cool thing about exploring these things, and as a future therapist, exploring things with clients, is that we grow together, we learn together. I get to know more about things that I didn't know about before, or spaces that I haven't been in, or cultures that I haven't grown up in. And the thing is, we're all uniquely created, and we all are collective of those experiences. And so we should want to know that about ourselves. And then I feel like it opens us up. The more that we dig in and know things about ourselves, the more we are open to exploring and knowing things about other people, right? The more that I know that I'm not just made up of me, there's a collective of things that have created certain things in me. There are some things that I seek out and have experienced on my own, but I am not just, I'm a collective of things. If I think about you as a collective of things, then I can't just judge you just like on what I just see right now. I have to be positioned or in a position to want to explore and know more about your collective of things. And so it's a really cool space. Um, so I just encourage you, if you've not done a cultural biography, explore it. If you have not done a genealogram, explore it. You can Google it. There's plenty of books about it. Explore, 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 explore. All right, y'all. As always, continue to cultivate your joy, cultivate your peace, embrace growth and embrace change as you are growing and evolving. And don't forget to subscribe and follow and share. And I will talk to you later.
Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.